What's up, everyone? Alex with Jeeps Limited here. Welcome to episode 4 of working on the YJ restoration project I'm working on. So I got all of the exterior rust cut off and replaced with new metal. And a couple spots that I have to take care of yet is the B pillars here. So these B pillars, I got new panels for them because they were all rotted out real bad. And rather than taking the whole B pillar off, I just cut out the bad part of the B pillar and cut these replacement panels to fit in there. However, there's a big gap here and a big gap here because this replacement panel doesn't match exactly the original panel. So I'm going to have to just fabricate something real quick, probably out of just 22 gauge sheet metal, just to fill in this gap. And then I have to finish welding this B pillar, and then the B pillar on the other side there needs a little bit more welding. It needs some fabricating as well. Needs a little bit more welding, and then that'll be good to go. And then another thing I'm going to be working on is over here. I found a couple of rust holes from the inner fender well, or rear inner fender well. That go to the exterior, which I'm going to cut out and replace. And then a couple of spots on the floor here are actually a little bit questionable as well. So that's what I'm going to get started with. I don't think that's going to be too much of a big deal, but I got to get that stuff taken care of. And then I'm going to start going through and really nitpicking the rust to make sure I got everything that really needs to be replaced versus everything that's treatable. And then I'm going to go ahead and start treating the rust and starting to really make these areas that I did all this welding look good. There's definitely some filler work that needs to be done, and some seams that need to be filled with seam sealer. So that's what I'm going to be working on here in this next episode. So I hope you guys enjoy, and thank you for watching. Alright, so what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to finish this B pillar up. It needs to be welded up here, welded to the floor, and then both the B pillars have this gap here that I'm going to just make a little piece out of 22 gauge, just tack it in there, and just make it clean enough that I can just it's just going to tack in, and then I'm just going to fill the gaps with seam sealer. And same thing like right here, I'm just going to cap it off with something and make it so that I can just seal it up and it'll look good enough. It doesn't need to be structural, it just need to fill the gap with something is all. So I'm just going to use this 22 gauge for that. Alright, so some of those welds aren't the greatest, but if we zoom in here, I have this piece, let's see, here is bent up pretty nicely. It actually follows that curve pretty well. I mean, you're never going to get it perfect. I mean, I'm sure somebody could. I'm never going to get it perfect, so it's not too bad. Like I said, I'm gonna hammer it into place a little bit more, and then I'm just gonna probably Bondo or seam seal over it or something to just kind of just kind of mask it a little bit. I mean, it's in a spot that you're not going to see super well. So, I mean, it's good enough. It'll do what it needs to do. So, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. The other side, the B-pillar is already fully welded. Badly, but it's fully welded. So, oh, actually, I got to fill in this gap. See, right there still. So, I'll fill that in, then do the other side. Alright, so I kind of gave up on trying to fill in this gap. This is a really awkward piece. I'm either going to do one of two things. Just leave it there, or try and fill it in with some other method that I'm probably not good at either, but maybe better at than I am at welding. I also went ahead on the other side, filled in the same like curved gap there. I think those turned out like fine. Those will look okay. But I'm just gonna, the other stuff, I'm just gonna leave it and do something different with it. So, next I'm gonna be moving on to this spot right here. So, this hole popped up as I was just kind of trying to get everything cleaned up. And what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna try and cut, I'm gonna, cut out as minimal as possible. I'm gonna just try and cut out maybe here on the wheel well, and maybe just try and clean up the floor and just grind it clean, because it feels pretty solid. I think the rest is really here and not here. So that's what I'm gonna try and do. We'll see how that goes. All right, so as you can see on here, I got these cut out, and there was actually a bit more damage there than I thought. This was the original little hole I saw, which turned into a pretty big hole. And then there's another one here and another one here. And then one more that you can even see from this side. I don't think they're going to be too hard to patch. I'm actually going to weld them from like the exterior of the wheel well side. And that should make a pretty easy seam on the inside to try and hide. So I'm going to go ahead and start just getting something fabricated up and start getting it tacked into place. Alright, I got these patched up pretty nicely. There was a hole here, here, a big one here, and then one here. I got them patched up and smoothed out pretty well. On the inside of this wheel well, you're really not going to be able to see a whole lot. So, I think with some paint and then maybe a heavy texture or something, it's already got some kind of bed liner in it. So, I might just be re-bed lining it or something. You won't even see them. And then they'll be pretty easy on the inside to clean up and hide. So these turned out pretty decent. I've got probably at least one more to do on the other side, and then I got two spots on the floor on the inside of the tub that I got to fix up as well. So I'll be moving on to probably the other side. All right, so you guys can see here that I got just a few more spots on this fender weld. This is on the passenger side. This side was not nearly as bad as that driver's side. It just had a couple of small spots. There's like a little ridge here, or a little lip, like a pinch weld. It really is what it is, where this ties into the floor, where it was a little rusty. So I just cut those out and replaced those. I still got to grind them smooth, but I got a little bit more welding on the inside of the tub, or actually, I got to cut some stuff out and then do some welding on the inside of the tub. Then I'm going to grind this out. Then I got to grind out the B-pillars. And then I got just some other, like a lot of touch-up grinding I need to do on the inside and the outside. And then I think I'll be on to really getting the inside clean, like the vacuum and everything, getting it cleaned out. And then probably moving on to doing some filler, panel sealer and whatnot on there. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on the inside of the tub and get working on some of that. Alright, so inside the tub, right here and right here, there's quite a bit of rust there. That's where the front bracket for the rear seat sits. So that was probably one, holding moisture in there itself, and two, there's another piece underneath this, like a thickened spot, that has the nut certs for the seat in it. And that was probably holding moisture underneath it too, because I think it's just the floor that's rusted out. So I'm going to cut out like right here and see if I can get this piece off of the other piece below it without damaging the other piece below it. And if I do, I'll just have to fix them both, which isn't really that big of a deal. But I'm going to just try and do it without destroying both pieces. Just got to do it on both sides. So it shouldn't be too bad, just a couple of simple squares, hopefully. So, and since I say it won't be too bad, it's probably going to be a nightmare, but we'll see. I think we can get it knocked out pretty quickly. Ended up happening here is both of the layers of this, actually it looks like it might have been 3 layers, were pretty badly rusted. So I ended up just cutting completely through the whole thing. And what I'm going to try and do, I overcut the top hole in the floor a little bit. I'm going to try and get another nice piece welded in here. This is technically a C-channel. With short legs that go down. So I'm going to try and get maybe a C-channel of sorts in there and then weld it on, and then I'll weld a new floor piece in there. So I didn't want to take the whole thing out, but it was pretty rusty anyway, so it didn't really make sense to leave it. So that's what I'm doing on this one. I'm not going to cut the other side out yet until I have this one done, just because I want to focus on this one. So I'm going to get this one welded back in, and then we'll see how it turns out, and then tackle the next one. Alright, so I found this piece that's like kind of a U-channel that I cut off of some of the scrap from the B-pillar, actually. And it's not perfect, but it does actually, it's pretty darn close. I can probably still kind of get some weld on the legs going down. Again, not perfect, but I think it'll do pretty decent. I mean, it's definitely better than nothing in there, to add a little bit of that strength back. So I'm going to get that welded in, I think, and then I'll probably like, it concerns me having this piece in here and then putting I'll put that right there for now. Put that piece in there and then putting another piece over it. So probably what I'll do is I'll weld that in, let it cool down, and then probably hit it with some weld-proof or weld-through primer or whatever it is, which is really intended to be like on surfaces of metal that are mating together like that. So will it actually do anything? I have no idea, but I can give it a shot. It's better than nothing. So I'm gonna go pick that up and get it welded in. Alright, well that went in decently. It actually welded not too bad. Could be better. Unless I do it from the bottom, I'm not going to be able to weld the legs down, and to be honest, I just don't think I'm going to. I think it'll be fine the way it is. So I'm going to let that cool and put some weld-through primer on it, and then try and get a piece fitted in there. I don't know. These cuts here aren't great. They're a little bit, like, wonky, so we'll see. It might be tough to get something fitted in there, but worst case scenario, it's covered with seat brackets, so who cares? So yeah, I'm gonna maybe just move on to the next one actually while that one cools down, I think. Alright, so I actually went ahead and made both of these quite a bit bigger. There was a little bit more rust that continued over in this direction. And actually, I wanted to be able to get... This C-channel here actually stops right there. And then this, C-channel or whatever hat channel runs this way and supports the floor. And there's just a lot of dirt and crap in there that I want to try and get out. So having this opened up like that kind of allows me to do that anyways. So you can see I opened up that side the same way as well. So I'm going to try and blow and suck all the dirt out of there. And then I'll weld through primer this. And then, weld on these pieces. So a little bit more work, but I think in the long run, it's probably just what I need to do. So... Alright everybody, so I got all of this rust repair in here done. I got these sections done here where the seat mounts, the back seat mounts, and then I also went ahead, I had to fix right here where the roll bar connects to the back of the tub here. There's nut certs that would sit in there, and the bolts broke off, and I actually tried to drill the nut certs out to just get the bolts out of them, and I was unsuccessful, so I inevitably just decided to just cut this piece out, cut off the piece that holds the nut certs, and just remake it. So it's not threaded anymore. It'll have to get through bolted, which maybe might not be ideal, but I don't really plan on taking this off-roading, so the risk of rolling it is pretty minimal, so it should be okay. That's all I'm going to be doing in this episode here. I think now I'm finally done with the cutting and the welding and the grinding, and I'm going to be moving on to doing some Bondo and metal filler work on the inside of the tub here. I've got all these metal pieces I need to smooth out in Bondo because, as you guys know, the welds weren't the greatest. So, anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one.